No me acordaba que en la conferencia de PC Gaming Show, tío, sacaron gameplay. Tenemos que ver esto. ¿Cuál veo? A ver, este es el más que parece más tal, ¿no? O bueno, el de PC Gamer, ¿no? Lo vemos en el PC Gamer, que son 13 minutazos, además. Venga, let's go. ¿Es un dron? La verdad es que este juego tiene muy buena pinta, porque es de los creadores de Conan Exiles. Y la verdad es que se lo han currado, este juego. O sea, parece que se lo están currando bastante. Habrá que ver. Tema movimiento, tema combate, sobre todo. Tengo mucha intriga de ver cómo va a ser esto.
My name's Joel Bylos. I'm the creative director on Dune Awakening. So Dune Awakening is a survival, open world, massively multiplayer game. It is a game where players are invited to explore.
Es que solo de esas palabritas me erizan la piel.
Of Dune. They involve themselves in politics, they involve themselves in intrigue, they involve themselves in combat, they have to survive on the most dangerous planet in the universe.
Decente,
and through
normal.
this experience they come to know the factions.
A ver, a lo mejor no han elegido el mejor escenario para enseñarnos, la verdad.
So, when Dune Awakening begins, you are a castaway on the planet in the deep desert, and all you have is a knife that you've made out of scrap metal. And you need to creep into enemy camps and knife them in the back and steal the water from their steel suits. By the end of the game, perhaps you're running a guild. You have a fleet of vehicles, ornithopters flying in formation, sandbikes cruising across the desert beneath them, tanks kicking up a cloud of dust as you drive to a spice blow in the distance.
Es alpha footage, O sea, este juego le queda, solo de ver cómo se ve esto, a este juego le queda, le quedan, Diría que le quedan mínimo un año y algo,
and then you try to cling to power. Arrakis is the most dangerous planet in the universe. Surviving on
suponiendo
Arrakis
que esto es el estado actual del juego. Que a lo mejor esto es alpha footage y esto es del año pasado, de cuando presentaron el juego, que es posible.
means that you need to prepare for sandstorms.
Porque supone que este juego sale este año. Me suena de que salía este año, ¿no?
Water discipline is an important part of survival. In the beginning, it might just be water for yourself. In the end, you might need industrial levels of water because you have
2023.
your base. And the
Se supone que sale
storms
este
are an
año.
important part of survival as well. You have to find shelter in the
Entiendo que
beginning.
esto
You have
es
nothing to your name. After a
ya pasó.
while, you will have a base, and then you will build a bigger base, so that doesn't become as important. But then you always have to go out in the desert and make sure that you can compete against the desert. In the end,
o sea, está diciendo que, pues eso, que te vas a crear tu base, no sé qué. O sea, esta base, o sea, está creada por los players, ¿vale? Esta base está creada por los players. ¿Cómo se ve? Se ve muy guay. O sea, me mola mucho el rollete, ¿eh? El rollete de desierto desolado. Supongo que habrá un montón de cuevas y minas donde entrar. Y ahí será donde estará el mejunje, ¿no? Estará ahí como la mandanga, estará por ahí. Pinta guay, ¿eh? Me mola mucho también. Rollo, las armaduras me molan mucho, ¿eh? Me mola mucho, la verdad. Todo se ha dicho, yo no he visto Dune, ¿eh? No he visto ni la vieja ni la nueva, no he visto nada.
Because if you get caught by the worm, there will be nothing left of you, and you will leave nothing behind.
With Dune, we have a particular focus on a style of combat that we like to call combined arms, and it takes all of the elements that players would expect from the books and the movies, and it puts them together in this great chaotic kind of experience. So we have vehicle combat, we have abilities that you might see in the great schools in the Dune universe. We have melee combat and we have range combat, and all of these things work together to create both player versus environment, PvE kind of combat, as well as massive PvP battles for players to participate in. And it's the combination of these things that really makes it feel like sandbox combat, where players have the ability to, you know, pick their loadouts and see how they go into battle.
We have a broad spectrum of combat
que me mola mucho la estética, ¿eh?
We have
me flipa la estética.
Like knives and swords. We have ranged weapons, then we have ground vehicles and air vehicles. They all come with configurable capabilities like las guns, rockets, miniguns, things like that.
Y se van a poder configurar los vehículos. En plan, vas a poder instalar una minigun ahí, en plan, una metralleta de esas gordas, ¿sabes? Y ya está.
The more coordinated you are, the better it is, the better prepared you are, the better it will be. If you're playing with someone for the first time or you didn't prepare properly, it will be chaotic, but if you prepare, if you coordinate, then you will perform with lethal efficiency.
So, the world of Arrakis is full of political intrigue, and we have this fantastic concept from the stories called Canly. And Canly is basically the rules of engagement. It's this thing called the Great Convention that defines areas of the world where players are allowed to interact in different ways. So in Dune Awakening, players will have different areas of the world that are enabled for example, full player versus player combat, and areas that are safer and you know, that are patrolled by Sardaukar troops and kept safe. And so players really have this sort of free opportunity within the sandbox to find the locations where they can fight with each other or to stay in the locations where they're safer, right? And that's up to the player and how they want to approach the game. In Dune Awakening, we've got many different types of weapons from across the universe, drawing upon the books and the movies. We have las guns, mauler pistols, we have scatter guns, pellet guns. In addition, we have all of the sort of melee weapons you'd expect to see, crisp knives.
O sea, mirad cómo se ve la interfaz de construcción, ¿no? Qué guapo, es que mola mucho como todas las estructuras que se pueden llegar a hacer, ¿eh? Y veremos rollo, supongo que también se podrá rollo, no sé, excavar con los vehículos, cosas así.
And kinjals,
muy interesante,
and short swords, and rapiers, and in addition to that, of course, we also
diciendo
have
las armas, a ver.
Pistols, we have scatter guns, pellet across the universe, drawing upon the books and the movies. We have las guns, mauler pistols, we have scatter guns, pellet guns. In addition, we have all of the sort of melee weapons you'd expect to see, crisp knives and kinjals and short swords and rapiers. And in addition to that, of course, we also have abilities that players
habilidades también. O sea, una gran variedad de armas que ha dicho, un montón de armas melee y un montón de armas a distancia, ¿vale? Y encima habilidades también.
Such as Mentat abilities or Bene Gesserit skills. You can fight other players wearing Holtzman shields. There's a system involved where people want to get close because the slow blade penetrates. And so you want to use melee to get through a shield in a duel like that. And of course, like if people don't have shields, because shields draw the sandworm, you want to make sure that you use ranged weapons. So there's a real interplay between systems, between the way that shields interact with both the world and the environment with sandworms, and also how they interact in close personal combat. Anytime that you step onto the sands of Arrakis, you risk drawing the worm. You can multiply that by driving vehicles on the surface. You can multiply that by using shields or suspensor belts. Holtzman technology will draw the worm.
O sea, ha dicho en plan que rollo, cuantas más cosas tengas, cuanto más movidas haya en el terreno, como que más probabilidad hay de que aparezca un gusano gigante, ¿sabes? En plan, pues sí, y ya está. Ostras. Tiene buena pinta. Tiene muy buena pinta, la verdad.
Dune Awakening is built upon a foundation of 5 pillars. Survival, which is obviously everything you'd expect to see in a survival game. It's water discipline, it's the surviving the sandstorms that sweep across Arrakis. Then we have politics and intrigue, which speaks to the faction gameplay of the game. It's about,
aquí, ¿no?
Siding with one of the factions, thinking about how they work together, perhaps.
Esa sensación de que parece que se vaya a romper en cualquier momento, ¿verdad?
Then there's infinite exploration. Infinite exploration, which is one of the things I'm most excited about, is how the world changes over time.
El mundo cambia
we have a
también.
concept called a Coriolis storm, and when it sweeps across the landscape, the sands shift, revealing new points of interest, hiding others, making the game renewed every week.
Qué guapo.
Then we have combined arms. Combined arms is our combination of vehicles, melee combat, range combat, and abilities all working together to create a seamless sandbox combat experience. And finally, we have expression and customization, which is really more than just talking about like the visual expression and customization, which of course we have armor sets and clothing and a robust character creation. But in addition to that, it's really about play the way you want to play. Do you want to be a trader? You can do that. Do you want to be a fighter? Of course you can do that. Do you want to be a spy? Maybe that's the gameplay you're looking for. All of these things built into.
O sea, que puedes en plan... Claro, debido a los stats, claro, porque es un survival game, pero también es un MMO. O sea, también vas a tener rollo stats de RPG, de MMORPG. O sea, que vas a poder rollo tener como más subida rollo las teal para ir más sigiloso, para tal, no sé qué, o si quieres ser más tal. Muy interesante, tío.
We didn't always know what we were doing, but we were learning on the job to a large extent. As Funcom now has a long track record of MMOs, we know we're not new when it comes of challenges relating to server technology, to relating to player population balancing, with relating to the RPG aspects of it. So everything that went into the earlier MMOs that we did comes into play here. We are taking it a lot further though, because we're not a traditional MMO in the sense that there's combat in our game is much more second to second and intense than you would find in an MMO, for instance. It's much based on the second to second experience, how melee, how ranged, how gadgets and abilities, how ground vehicles, how air vehicles, how it comes together in the ultimate challenge that is getting spice.
In Dune Awakening, PvP is about large-scale competition.
Eso es lo que queremos, eso.
Players in guilds competing for spice resources in the world. And PvP can be done on many levels between players, right? It doesn't necessarily mean players killing players. It can also be players out intriguing other players, finding ways to give them false information, tricking them into going to the wrong area to look for a spice blow, or perhaps like misleading them into looking at in an enemy base for the wrong thing, right? In our game, spice is obviously a very important mechanic as it is in Frank Herbert's stories. As players consume spice, they unlock the ability to level up skills in the game. And those skills, as you train them, you choose which ones to train, you have active skill training. As you train those skills, the more spice you consume, the more you're allowed to train. If you don't have a lot of spice in your blood, you obviously can't train as much. However, this also comes at the cost of becoming woefully addicted to spice.
So the journey of the player, we've divided that into 4 parts. We think of them as survive, protect, expand, control. The survive part means
los jugadores van a como competir para ver quién... O sea, al final va a competir toda la gente en quién se cheta más. Básicamente lo que viene a ser un MMO, realmente, sí.
You're up against the planet itself and you're
todo eso sobreviviendo contra el mundo y contra los players, lo cual es muy hardcore y lo cual me gusta.
You might have a base, but you also want to make sure that nobody else comes to take it away from you. So you try to build defenses and make sure that your base is in the clear. Then in the expand phase, you lift your gaze and you look around and you see that others have stuff as well, and you might want to take their stuff. Then, in the control phase, you may find yourself being a part of a guild or even the leader of a guild. Then, the goal is to control the flow of spice on Arrakis. However, you're never safe. There's always someone lurking around the corner. Can you really trust your second in command? So, the goal of the control phase is that you are clinging to control. In Dune Awakening, we have a wide array of combat capabilities. Infantry consists of melee with knives, swords. You have ranged weaponry, gas-powered, las guns. You have gadgets, you have abilities. And building on that, we have ground vehicles, we have air vehicles with their own combat
todo lo que nos podamos esperar,
when
vaya.
all of this comes together, you'll find yourself in the desert, in a spice harvesting operation. And there might be another guild attacking you to get your spice. And whenever you get into combat in the desert of Arrakis, try to get it over with quickly, because not only are you fighting human combatants, but the planet Arrakis itself is the greatest protagonist there is. As you're fighting in the desert, there might be a sandstorm rolling in, and the sandworm will be attracted to the vibrations that you cause. So get it over with quickly, and then return to solid ground.
Claro, en plan, si te pasas mucho tiempo fuera de la base haciendo muchas cosas, las vibraciones atraerán a los gusanos gigantes de las arenas. Así que tampoco hay que motivarse. Buah, eso está muy guapo, tío. Me estoy viendo ya ragueos míos de estar farmeando de chill y que venga un gusano gigante, abra la boca y me zampe. Y raguear muy vasto. Pero bueno, la verdad es que tengo muchas ganas después de haber visto esto, O sea, ya digo, si el estado actual del juego es este, le falta. Pero se supone que sale este año. O sea, o bien se retrasa, o bien este no es el estado actual del juego. Simplemente lo que nos han enseñado para hypear un poco. Para decir, que se viene esto. A final de año, se supone. A ver si sale antes o hay una beta. Tienen que hacer beta, sí o sí. O sea que bueno, lo dicho, todas las actualizaciones acerca de este juego, pues aquí las tendremos, básicamente.